Congressman, good to have you with us. And how is the swamp, sir?
Good morning, Kevin. It's busy. Hopefully for some of the good reasons right now, but greetings.
Well, good to, like I said, greetings right back at you. I know you'd rather be here. Congressman, I have to ask you a personal question here because it's a time of joy and a time of work and a time of regret, I would suppose. You are one of the highest elected officials in the country, one of the highest in the world. Yet again, all of us want to enjoy life. You come back to Idaho, you think to yourself, gosh, it's great. I wish I could spend more time here. And obviously you work for the people, but why do you do what you do? Why do you continue to do this when you could enjoy a career, a life in the private sector?
Well, I ask myself that same question sometimes, Kevin. I don't know if there's a short answer to that, but probably the best thing is just to communicate. Some people have a heart desire to be part of the military service, for example, or ministry, for example, and different callings to do different things. And I was I never served in the active military, and I didn't engage in full-time ministry or anything like that. Over the course of time, after years in business, I kind of backwardly got into the political realm with an appointment back in about 2005, and I just kind of felt like that was where God was pointing me. And so one thing led to another, and perhaps a few successes, and maybe just a little bit of a feeling that I had an acumen for it, and so here we are. But this is just for a season, and I don't intend on doing this the rest of my life, and there's a lot of honor that comes with it. But frankly, there is a lot of sacrifice and a lot of things that are not particularly fun. But at the same time, not too many people have the privilege of serving others, and not too many people have the privilege of doing it here. And this is a critical time, and I just kind of feel like this is a window of time where maybe I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and the fact that I'm not married to it, the fact that I'm not addicted to it, that I can walk away, kind of empowers me to be able to do what I think is right, regardless of what the outcome might be.
Our great friend Congressman Fulcher joining us with a little personal insight. I'm sure there would be 1,000 places you would rather be right now, considering we've got the latest controversy involving the government shutdown, a stopgap bill, deals, hyperbole. It sounds more like the WWE than the House of Representatives, sir. Yeah, that's kind of the norm, I think, anymore. But you know what? It was never supposed to be easy, Kevin. I mean, you look back at our history and how our constitutional and our founding documents were laid out, and it was based on conflict, basically, and it was based on debate. It was based on not being easy, but being ultimately fair over the course of time. And I'm not sure that it always has worked out to be that way, but that was the intent behind it. And it is difficult, and it is conflicted. And, at the end of the day, Congress is a reflection of our society. And so the conflict that you see here, the debates that we're having are really debates that are happening across the country. And so we need to be mindful of that, and also just remember that this thing called republic that we live in, and it's not a democracy, it's a republic. This thing called republic has a couple of prerequisites, and to be successful, our citizenry needs to be engaged, our citizenry needs to be informed, and that's where we break down sometimes, because I look around the people I serve with and I think, I wish that some constituents in other states may have made a better choice or a different choice. But that's where I think ultimately responsibility is on our citizens. But now it's up to us to lead and make decisions. Well, and those are, it's funny. I believe the founding fathers, back to your comments, Congressman Fulcher, on KIDO Talk Radio, were really the anti-woke folks, because you're right. Everything, especially in the House, was based on conflict. And today we get all, anxietied up if we have conflict, but that is the really the DNA of our government. Let's go over some of the deals that you and the speaker are talking about. You're looking at extending the deadline by a month, spending cuts, a few other things, the border policy. Where would you like to begin to tell folks in Idaho what you're doing to keep things rolling, sir?
Well, we've got a deadline at the end of this month to do something with our budget, to do something with our spending. And Kevin, we've known for a long time that the spending has been out of control. And by the way, everybody contributes to it. My office included. We get inquiries every day, where it's, people want something more, and the government should be doing more for this and that. And I don't get near as much as I'm sure a lot of do, but the bottom line is there is no such thing as a providing government. Government doesn't provide anything. It's the taxpayers that support that government, and government uses certain programs to push and pull things around. But we have a spending issue that we have to deal with. It was way out of control, too much that the government was spending before COVID, and then when COVID hit, it went off the charts. And so we're coming up on a deadline where we have to make some decisions, and that's where the impasse lies. There are some of us that think that we've got to cut things back. There are others that think that we can continue to stay this course, and so there is a tentative, and I underscore the word tentative deal to extend for 30 days what's called a continuing resolution, just to keep everything rolling. And assuming that that's agreed to, and I think it will be in the House, then we would take a 1% cut on everything except for military and veterans, and also the base disaster relief, not the new improved higher disaster relief, but the basic disaster stuff. Those would stay intact, but everything else would take about a 7.8% cut. And so that's only 1%, by the way, 7.8%. But it's when you consider in Washington D.C. terms, it's absolutely huge. So that, I believe, is going to pass out of the House. It's probably going to be voted on Thursday. And frankly, we think the Senate will reject it. And if they do, then we're likely to have a government shutdown, or at least a partial shutdown, until we get to a conference committee to hammer out the differences. But one other thing that's a critical component of this, the border security issue is at the center of the deal. That's the hardline demand. In addition to the 1% cut, that's the hardline demand that the House is making. Is that this open border has got to stop, and the Senate has to agree, and the President has to agree to put in H.R. 2, which is a bill that passed the House here early in the year that basically restores border security. So that's really at the bedrock, and where I should have started my explanation. That's really at the bedrock here, and frankly, the House is going to dig in on that. Even if the adjustments on the negotiations with the Senate on spending, I don't see the House backing off on this border security issue.
Congressman, we're going to get you out on time today at 6:29 our time, but do you mind holding on for a break real quick?
Happy to. Thank you.
Okay, more with our great friend Congressman Fulcher next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Once again, we're back with Congressman Fulcher, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Congressman, before we talk about what the media has covered concerning, the Republicans, obviously they're not going to say that the Republicans are united. They never would, even during the days of the contract with America. Let's talk about your committees for people that aren't familiar with your committees that you're on, that you're about, that you're chairing. Tell us what's going on. I know you've only been back for a week or two, but obviously very important stuff when we're talking about the lands and agriculture and really the backbone of our state.
Well, there's two primary committees that I'm on. One is Energy and Commerce, and that one is arguably the largest jurisdiction of any committee in the House. And it starts with, but it doesn't end with, the things that are in the name, and that's energy-related issues, commerce-related issues. But it handles a broad array of other things. And so that's the one primary committee. The other one, Kevin, is Natural Resources, which to Idaho, that's also very, very important, and that has to do with any of the resources within our access, the timber, the grazing, the mining, and the water, and all those things which are so critical to the fundamental economy in Idaho and whatnot. And I just have to mention for a second, we had a little bit of a benchmark last week with a major bill that passed the full House, and I think it's highly likely to pass the Senate and be signed into law now. But it's called Good Neighbor Authority, and it allows counties and tribes to partner with the federal government and do timber projects, grazing projects, and share in the revenue with that. And it just provides a lot more local stakeholder control when it comes to that federal lands that so often are not managed well. And that was a benchmark piece of legislation, passed unanimously, by the way. And that doesn't happen very often in the U.S. House these days. So that was something I just had to mention right quick.
No. I mean, it's very important that people know what you're working on, not only the big issues, but the issues that matter. I guess none more important than hits every American, Republican and Democrat. Congressman, even Congressman Fulcher, gas prices going through the roof.
No question about it. No question. And I was traveling over the weekend again and bouncing around to different parts of the state, different parts of the country, and it's all over. And that's one of the top things that I hear about every time. And you know what, Kevin, this is totally self-induced. It's absolutely self-induced. And it's a function of inflation. And inflation, by the way, it only comes from government spending. There's not a market cause for this. This is caused when the government spends more money than it has, and it dilutes the current existing supply. That's what causes inflation. And gas prices have been a significant result of that. But so it's the government spending, number one. But number two, it's the government restrictions on our own production. It's the government discouragement of our own production, exploration. We have plenty of fossil fuel resources within this country. We've got plenty of all kinds of resources within this country, but we have restricted it in the name of supposedly making a greener America and a greener planet. It's a bankrupt argument. It's absolutely a bankrupt argument. America's energy production has been getting traditionally cleaner and cleaner and cleaner over the years with improvements in technology and environmental friendliness. But we have an administration right now that is bent on trying to artificially shift towards other forms of energy, and it just simply it doesn't work. The policies don't work, and as a result, we're all paying the price at the gas pump.
Yeah, it's so very frustrating, Congressman Fulcher, especially the folks that, obviously that, whether they're like in my business, people are out selling, but you've got landscapers that have to pass that on to every, delivery drivers, everybody. Another favorite topic of yours, you've been there, you've been on the ground, you've looked at those people. Ukraine, you've got Zelensky in New York, going to meet with President Biden today, addressing the UN General Assembly. Your thoughts on the bill that keeps going? Obviously, it's for a good cause to stop the Russians, but, do we need some restraint? Your thoughts, sir?
Couple things, and just noteworthy on this upcoming resolution, there's not incremental increase or incremental money in this continuing resolution that we talked about just a few minutes ago to send to Ukraine. I will note that in the previously passed NDAA non-disclosure, or not non-disclosure, national defense, there is $300 million that was in that would kick in for training, humanitarian purposes, if this all passes, but nothing more in this continuing resolution. And that's going to be a big debate because on the one side of the fence, people say, hey, look, we got to give them everything that they possibly need in order to succeed, and regardless of what the cost is. And the other side, and I tend to fall on the other side, which is, hey, look, we've sent I think it's $113 billion with a B already. We still don't have a complete accounting on what's happened with all of that, how that's being used, where that's being used. And frankly, we don't have it we don't have those resources. We've been giving it to Ukraine. We've been selling it to Taiwan. We have been depleting our own reserves, and we're 32, coming up on 33 trillion in debt. And so, I for one am not bullish on just continuing this. You can also make the argument, Kevin, that when we continue to provide resources here, are we reducing any incentive for peace talks? If we just keep fueling this fight, are we reducing the desire for some to have discussions and negotiations instead of launching bombs? And so I'm just not content personally with the continued funding there for those reasons. But stay tuned, because you're going to hear a lot of that debate coming up on the House floor.
Congressman Fulcher, anything else you'd like to share with us that you're working on that we haven't covered today?
Well, we've got several major pieces of legislation coming through. As I mentioned, we got the continuing resolution. We are going to be voting on the defense bill tomorrow. That's actually going to be first, and it just worked out on the timing that it's going to be. We're going to work on the defense bill. And I just point out, and this is really important to me, there are all kinds of restrictions on anything of the woke training and the military spending budget, which I think has got to go. I mean, we're a fighting force. The defense apparatus is supposed to be training a fighting force, not trying to build in some kind of a social experiment with wokeness. And so when people see this bill, and it's going to pass probably tomorrow, I just want them to know, I want everybody to know, we have eliminated any kind of support for that type of attitude, this social engineering stuff in the U.S. defense budget. And that was something that I feel very strongly about. The Senate, again, is going to argue about that, and we'll take that fight at that level when it comes. But what's coming out of the House is going to be a good bill.
Congressman, we appreciate you. We thank you so much for joining us. I know you're very busy, so thank you, sir.